Hello, my name is Katie and welcome to my video. Today I want to talk about books that I regret buying. This is an unhaul. Now, if you've liked any of these books, and there are some controversial ones on here that I know people dearly love, don't take that as anything negative. It just didn't work for me. If I say that I didn't like this book and here's why, it doesn't mean that I don't like you. I think you're great. However, these just didn't work for me for various reasons. And we'll get into it. The first stack I have is going to be some that might give people some feelings. And then after that I have a bunch that we'll just kind of go through pretty quickly because I don't think they'll be as deeply loved as some of the ones in the first stack. Let's kick this off with a bang, shall we? Shadow and Bone by Leigh Bardugo. My sister and I actually read this together, and at the beginning we both really liked it because we liked the darkling and the banter between him and Alina, and it was great. And then about halfway through we started really losing interest. And by the time we got to the end of the book, we were just done. We were just done. We don't like Alina, and we especially don't like Alina with Mal. That's pretty much all I have to say about this. I did go ahead and look up spoilers for how this particular trilogy ends, and I am very glad I stopped where I did. Next, American Gods by Neil Gaiman. I can't pinpoint why I don't like this. I started reading it. Just wasn't working for me. I tried to watch the show on Stars, and then that was even worse. So I gave up, which is kind of sad because there are people I know who say this is their favorite book. Not me. This one is kind of a new release. Actually, I just got it over the summer and I wanted to love it. However, I don't think I totally understood what it was going into it, and that is A Song Below Water by Bethany C. Morrow. I think I thought this was going to be more fantastical than it was. It really read like a contemporary YA, and that is not my favorite genre at all. And I think that's why I ended up DNFing this. I also had issues trying to differentiate between the two characters because we're following two different perspectives, but honestly their voices just kind of sounded the same to me. And I was getting really confused because we have one who's a siren, which is like a bad thing in this world. And then we have another who like pretends to be a mermaid in like a Renaissance fair. And the two storylines just felt like they were so similar in a way that I was getting quite confused. I do think this has some valid things to say about society, and I wish I had liked it more, but honestly I think it wasn't what I thought it was going to be, and that's not the book's fault, that's my fault. So I'm going to go ahead and pass it on, and I'm sure there'll be someone who likes it a lot more than I did. This one I think is probably going to break some people's hearts, and that is The Power by Naomi Alderman. I did not finish this one. I tried. There wasn't anything particular that I really disliked about it. I just realized at a point that I did not care what happened, and I did not care to keep reading it. I went into this thinking that I was going to love it, and there were some chapters that I was reading and I felt like maybe I would really like it, but then they got into this like a weird like religious cult type of thing developed. And while I understand why, and I think it is valid for the book, and it makes sense with what's going on in the world, it made me a little uncomfortable. I don't love things like that in books, not because I think they're wrong or bad, just because they don't sit well with me. So I didn't finish this one, and I'm unhauling it. A few others that I have here that I think I know people like, but I don't think they're really anybody's favorites, so we can kind of skim through them a little fast. A Blade So Black by L.L. McKinney. I don't think I finished this one either. I thought it was going to be awesome. I was like an Alice in Wonderland retelling with a black main character. So cool. But our main character we begin the book with her father recently dying, or he might pass away right at the beginning of the book. And she like runs off in her grief and comes across this guy. It seems like his job is to fight creatures in like Wonderland or something like that. I don't know exactly what it is. I don't remember. But she meets up with him and like agrees to join him, and he's gonna train her to be this like fighter of some kind. But then like we just skip months and all of a sudden she's fully trained. She doesn't seem to have any like lingering issues with the fact that her dad just died. And then we just get chucked into this story with no world building and no character development. And it was not good. This next one I'm actually really sad that I didn't like, and that is Aurora Rising by Amy Kaufman and Jay Kristoff. I loved the Illuminae files, so I really thought like another sci-fi series by this duo would be awesome. And the thing of it is, at this point, I don't even remember my specific issues with it. I just remember ranting about it. I remember being upset and ranting about how this makes no sense and what is with these plot holes and going on and on about it, and so I decided I needed to get rid of it. And I really wish I could remember what made me so mad, but I probably wouldn't talk about it anyway because I'm pretty sure that's in spoiler territory. The next, well, they're two, but they're part of a series. I debated on getting rid of these because they're so pretty, and that these are the special editions of Red Queen and Glass Sword. And they have like the sprayed edges, and they're gorgeous. But here's the thing. I loved Red Queen. I binge read it in like probably a day and a half. And it's not that short of a book, so that's kind of impressive. But then I waited a bit, and when I picked up Glass Sword and I started reading it, I realized I hadn't really retained much of the plot from Red Queen, so I looked up a summary. And I was like, okay, I'm good to go. I just could not. I would sit down to read, and I would go to pick this book up, and I would end up doing something else because I just did not care to continue the story. So I've been holding on to these for about a year just because they're pretty, and I think it's just, it's time for them to go. I just don't have the shelf space to hold on to things just because they're pretty. Next, I have an entire stack of Philippa Gregory, a whole stack. I started reading the first book here, which is The Boleyn Inheritance, and oh my god, I just did... Okay, so let me back up. Philippa Gregory was one of my favorite authors in high school. She is one of the first historical fiction authors, or adult historical fiction authors that I read. And so there's some kind of nostalgia attached to that. But I started reading this, and I was like, I don't like this at all. Maybe it was something that I liked as a teenager, but I've outgrown her writing style, or maybe we're just not clicking. So I decided to just get rid of nearly every book by her that I own. I think I have like one on my shelves still, and that's because the plot intrigued me more than these. So I would be willing to keep any of these if anybody can tell me in particular that one or more is really good and I should read. So we have The Boleyn Inheritance, which I started reading and hated, so I probably won't keep this regardless. We have The Kingmaker's Daughter, which I haven't, like, it's brand new. I haven't even cracked the spine or anything. We have The Taming of the Queen, Three Sisters, Three Queens, and The White Princess, which I mainly got because I had started watching the show and then realized I hated the show. So that's how that went. But yes, if any of those are books that you've read and you thought were really good and think I should give it a chance to, let me know, because those I'd be willing to keep. The next two are like self-help books that, well, I'll show you the titles. We have Everything is Fucked and I Used to Be a Miserable Fuck. Do you guys remember when like every self-help book had to have the word fuck in the title or some kind of curse word? Yeah, that was when I bought these. I read The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck. And I enjoyed that. It was like funny, and I think it was something that I needed at the time. But now I'm in a place where I just don't care. Like, I don't feel like I need self-help books, at least not in this vein. And I don't think I am a miserable fuck, so I definitely don't need to read this one. So these are going bye-bye. Then I have, like, kind of the first 3 books in the Witcher series. I have the 2 short story collections, The Last Witch and Sword of Destiny, both of which I read. And I gave them like 3 stars, they were fine. And then Blood of Elves, which is the first book in the actual like series, which I started reading and just could not get into at all. I tried so hard. It wasn't working for me, so I think I'm just gonna get rid of them. I tried to watch the Netflix show as well, and that wasn't working either. So I think I'm just gonna have to say that the series is not for me. I have 2 Rick Riordan books here. It's book 1 and 2 in the Trials of Apollo series, The Hidden Oracle and The Dark Prophecy. I'm just not gonna get to them. I know that. I read the Percy Jackson series and the Heroes of Olympus, and I really liked them, and I probably will reread them again at some point. But I think I'm just done. Like, the amount of series within this world is just getting too much, and I just don't care. So I think I'm just gonna be content with the ones I've read and put these aside. I have The Paris Architect by Charles Balfour. This book wasn't bad. It's about a guy who's an architect in Paris, and he gets hired to create hidden rooms to hide Jews. It's like 1942 or something around there. This was an okay book. It was okay. Like, I enjoyed my experience. There was no point where I was like, I don't want to read this. But I didn't care for the main character. I thought his attitude stunk. And I'm never going to read it again, and I don't care to have it on my shelves either. So that's why this one's going. The next 2 are books that I bought that I didn't realize were part of a series. Well, this is Turncoat by Jim Butcher. It's one of the Dresden File books. I knew this was part of a series, but I didn't realize it was a series that you had to read in order, and I don't even know which book in the series this is. But I don't want to hold on to something that I'm going to have to buy like 4 books and read those before I can even get to this one. So this one's just going to go. The other one is What the Hell Did I Just Read by David Wong. I had this on my shelf until recently. I did my physical TBR tour, and in that I said that after I bought it, like, I realized this was book 3 in a series, and I wasn't sure what I was going to do with it. And this is another one. I just don't want to have to buy and read 2 other books just to get to this one. Especially because I only bought it because the title was funny. I didn't even read the synopsis. So I think this one is just going to go. It's been sitting on my shelves for over a year now. And it's time. I have The Family Upstairs by Lisa Jewell. This was a thriller. It wasn't a bad book. Like, I enjoyed it. I just didn't find it exceptionally thrilling. Like, everything that happened, I could have told you was going to happen, like, within the first couple chapters. So that's going to go. I have The Summer Wives by Beatrice Williams. I vaguely remember enjoying this when I read it, but I couldn't tell you anything about it. So I think it's going to, I'm not going to read this one again, I know that, so I think it should go. I have The Nanny by Jilly McMillan. This is another thriller that didn't work for me. I don't totally remember what didn't work about it, but I know I gave it 1 star, and I rarely do that, so it felt like a sign. I have The Wives by Taryn Fisher. I thought this was going to be good, and then I started reading it, and within like 2 chapters I realized I didn't really care for the writing style, and the story was not going any place that I thought I wanted to continue. So I didn't even finish this. I don't care what happens. That's usually why I don't finish something, is I realize that I do not care what happens. And then it just begins to feel like a waste of time to keep going. So this is leaving. The last stack here, I have a.k.a. A Love Story by Jenny Lee. I believe this is supposed to be a retelling of Anna Karenina, but kind of in like a Gossip Girl style, and I loved Gossip Girl. Like, as a teenager, I read all the books. I watched the show as an adult. But oh my lord, I don't know if it's just this particular author or if I'm just too old for this stuff at this point. But I just could not be bothered to give a shit about all the teenage drama. So I didn't finish it, and I'm getting rid of it. I have Extremely Loud and Incredibly Close by Jonathan Safran Foer. I wanted to like this. It sounded like it would be kind of sad, but also interesting. It's about a kid whose dad died during the 9/11 attacks. And he kind of goes on kind of like a last treasure hunt or something along those lines that his dad supposedly set up, but you're following the child as the main character, and I don't like books like that. It's one thing if you're reading like a middle grade novel and you're following a child as the main character, that's fine. But when you're reading an adult novel, and I just felt like the way the kid was written didn't feel very realistic. Like, there's precocious, and then there's I'm clearly an adult attempting to write a precocious child, and this fell into the latter. I have The Darwin Affair by Tim Mason. I don't even remember if I finished this or not. I feel like I did. It was supposed to be some kind of a mystery, and it had to do with Charles Darwin, supposed to be like knighted or something by the Queen, and people not wanting that to happen because they thought it would lend more credibility to his theory of evolution. I might even be wrong on that. I may have gotten it totally mixed up. But this was just boring. This is another one where I was reading it and I kept waiting for it to be exciting and to make me care, and it never happened. I have The 100-Year-Old Man Who Climbed Out the Window and Disappeared. The title alone made me think this book was going to be like entertaining and fun, because it's about a man who, on his 100th birthday, he does not want this party that's going to be thrown for him. So he literally climbs out his window and disappears. But I just stopped caring, like, early on. I was like, I don't want to keep going with this. I didn't jive with the writing style. It wasn't entertaining at all. In fact, it was kind of just annoying. So I don't remember if I finished this. I feel like I probably did not. Either way, it's leaving the house now. And the last book I have is Sisters of Shadow and Light by Sarah B. Larson. I read this and I remember not a damn thing about it. I gave it 2 stars, and it doesn't need to be on my shelf anymore, I guess. It was just one of those very forgettable, like YA fantasies, so that one's leaving too. So those are the books for my unhaul. That was long. If there are any books that I'm getting rid of that you can come up with a good, convincing reason for me to keep and try again, let me know. I may be open to it, especially with the Philippa Gregory ones. Otherwise, let me know. Let me know if you agree with any of my unpopular opinions. I'm curious. If you like my content, subscribe. Stick around. I'd love to see you in my comments. Thank you for watching. I hope to see you soon.